Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip,
And I'm CJ.
and it is Friday in the Riv after a Thursday night council meeting. And boy, was that a great meeting. It showed how incompetent, inept, and full of shit that our government is. Because that meeting was a freaking travesty.
Can you tell I've got no eyes left?
That's right. That's right. I know you were watching it live, and I could hear you hitting yourself in the head with a hammer. So, and I don't blame you because this is a disgrace. It showed exactly how pathetic. And you know something? A couple people called me and said, "Well, Michelle again talked about having the Durfee debt stipulated on the tax bill, and of course, Seth Akins had virtually no answer with a big hesitation, like, no, you can't do it. Well, that's horseshit. But the reality is that, listen, this just goes to show. Let me explain something to the city council. You've got the power to put that on the bill. If you tell them we're not going to approve the budget unless you tell the people how their taxes, what their taxes are. You swore an oath to be accountable to us, not cover up things. They're not going to tell you how much because it's hard. It's really hard. Yeah, it's really hard. You figure out the tax bill. The Prop 2.5, you got your assessment per 100,000. You multiply that. Then everything else that's left over is Durfee and the CPA. Real hard. No, they don't want you to know how much they're raping you. That's the problem. And Seth Akins, look, he should not be the city administrator. When he took the job, he said he knew nothing about finance. That's what a city administrator is supposed to have a strong background in. We had Bob Connors, who was a union negotiator in New York City, and then he was a negotiator for the city of New York. Had a collective bargaining background and a finance background, understood how you fund things. Jim Smith, another guy who's now working somewhere else, not as good as Connors, but had the background. Even Kathy Ann Viveris. I mean, she didn't have any collective bargaining. I don't know how many times I explained to her how they were violating collective bargaining agreements with some of the things they did. But she did have at least a finance background. She ran a shopping mall and stuff like that. So she had a financial background, and she used to go down there and talk about finances with Mary Sahadi. She was always there. Seth Akins doesn't have a clue. He's a lawyer. Show me some other city that's got a lawyer as a city administrator. Is Sean Kadeem a lawyer? No. He had a finance background, I believe, with Raytheon before he came to the city of Fall River and got his public sector training. This is a freaking clown show. This is like mini Joe Biden and his cabinet. We hire people who can't do the job, get them all kinds of assistance, and the job still doesn't get done. And our council sits there and exacerbates the problem because they tabled it again. Brad Kilby, again. Table it. And by the way, the motion to table is non-debatable, you morons. Once that motion is made and seconded, you got to vote the motion. You don't talk about it. Let me profile for the camera. No. Listen, we're getting murdered with taxes and fees, and then they come up with all these euphemisms. Oh, we got some hard decisions to make. No, they're not. They're not hard for you. Just keep passing taxes and fees, giving pay raises out, and hiring more people. Screw the taxpayer. That meeting, everybody watch it in pieces with a lot of Pepto-Bismol and aspirin and see how ineffective, incompetent, and inept our elected officials are. They represent nobody in this city except the government and the rich people. And with that, CJ, I'll turn it back over to you.
You know, when I was watching the meeting yesterday, and they called for the quarterly report, which was supposed to be given the first meeting in January. What was their excuse? Well, the first meeting in January is our inauguration, so we can't do it. The charter doesn't say because the first meeting is the inauguration, you can't do it. The charter says it must be the first meeting in January. That's the quarterly report. But you put it off until the next meeting in January. And then you table that until this meeting in February. And like was said in the middle of the meeting, how many times are we going to table this before we address it? How many months are we going to go? We're already at the point where we're late. And Cliff Ponte said it clearly. We have a charter that we must follow. We must follow. The charter isn't, suggestive. You voted for the charter, people. You wanted this piece of crap piece of paper. You wanted it. You wanted what was contained in it. Did you read what was contained in it? Oh, I didn't have time. I misplaced my book. I don't know where it went. You got to be able to know what's going on. You got to be able to know how to hold these people accountable. And Brad Kilby wanted to, Bridget couldn't be here today, so we should table this. Where the hell is Bridget? She's missing meetings all over town. And she can't do her job. She's made it clear that she can't do her job. Then why has the mayor kept her? If she can't do her job, Paul, why is she still working here? She needs an assistant to do the job. And this has been demonstrated in multiple meetings where she was supposed to be there. And even at meetings that she did finally show up at, it was under a threat. You cannot run the city this way. If she can't do the job, goodbye. Out. Go. Do your job and do it fast. Don't play games. Don't play games with the people. Don't play games with the city. Don't play games. We can't handle it. Bridget's got an assistant. Seth Akins came down. Seth Akins couldn't answer half the questions they had. They wanted that quarterly report. They didn't want to put it off until next month when Bridget might be able to make it. That's not the way it works. Understand, you have a job. Learn to do it if you don't know how, or resign. And I'm asking for your resignation now, Bridget. Resign, because you don't know what you're doing.
Well, CJ, they should all resign. Reality is that, again, as we started out, they don't know. You said learn their job. Nobody. They don't care. This is a part-time political gig for them. They're making a nice little nice little side money, and they never look at anything till the night of the meeting. Nobody does their homework. God, I haven't seen a councilor that did prep before a meeting in our how long. And number one, we talked about the motion to table being a non-debatable motion. If they knew parliamentary procedure, Cliff should have objected. That motion to table was out of order because the motion is violating the charter. You can't make that motion. It's illegal. You're ignoring the law. You can't supersede the law. The charter is the law. It's the constitution of the city. You can't make motions to override law. Oh, I make a motion that we waive the criminal penalty for murder. Okay, I second that motion. Everybody in favor on a council that says it's okay to murder people that you want to. Okay, oh, then I guess you can in Fall River. These people are imbeciles. Imbeciles. Violating the charter. And I hate to tell you this, Brad Kilby, the kiss ass, she's supposed to be there. It should be in her contract. It was in Bob Connors' contract that he had to attend every single council meeting, to be there to answer questions. Kathy Ann Viveris was at virtually every meeting. Jim Smith was at virtually every meeting. Bob Connors was at every meeting except the one when we won the big lawsuit on the health care. Then he said he was sick. They're doing this intentionally because they still haven't figured out the lies they're going to use to justify the budget, because they're broke. They're broke. That's why they're going to try to rape the retirement system, put all kinds of new fees and taxes on you to pay the bills that they've created. I just heard that a union went back in with a wage reopener, and the city met with them and cried poverty. Oh, we can't do a damn, we can't do anything now. When Diamond next year, we're going to be in big trouble. Well, we're in big trouble now. They won't tell you how much you owe to Durfee. They hide everything. And they want to do the same thing the federal government does, like they did with that bill. Wait, give it a 380-some page bill, and then vote on it the next day before anybody can read it. They're going to delay these numbers as long as possible to stick it down the city council's throat and say, you got to do something, you got to do something. We don't want a 112. We don't want a 112. They do this every single year. And nobody's figured that out yet on the council. Bridget should have been there. She's also got all kinds of assistants. Where's Aya Capone? Where's the new financial analyst? Somebody had to show up. But nobody did. And the council did not hold them accountable. These are the people that were elected to represent you. And all they do, they are excuse makers and tax makers. Their answer is always to increase the cost of living for the average citizen of Fall River. Not tighten their belts. Not make Bridget earn her money, and if she can't do her job, fire her. No, pay Aya Capone. Create a financial analyst. Give somebody up. Now I guess we got to give Seth Akins a whole bunch of help too, because he's not qualified to be a city administrator. He's a lawyer. And the financial piece is the largest piece of a city administrator or town administrator's job. That's why Sean Kadim got hired in Seekonk. He's got a financial background. They're the oversight for the financial movement in a city. You got a lawyer there? What the hell does he know? And he took the job. He took the job saying he wanted nothing to do with finances. You know what that should have meant? Or you don't get the job. You don't get the job. I mean, this is a clown show. You wonder why this city's going, it's been circling the toilet for a long time, but now it's going down. This is it. This guy's created 100 jobs, all kinds of consultants. They leave, but they never leave. Terry Sullivan was a consultant. Aya Capone's been around. I don't know how long has he been not working for the city, but working for the city. All on our dime. And our council sits in that chamber and never demands accountability. Bridget's not there. I table. I'll table. Paul, remember I tabled it, Paul. I tabled it. Let's go have some corned beef and cabbage. Screw the taxpayer. That meeting last night said it all. Michelle tried to bring up, hey, people got a right to know. Well, Michelle, I'm going to give you a suggestion. Reject the budget unless they tell us how much we're paying. It's our money. There will be complaints filed this year. If it's not on the tax bill, I've already been discussing with some people about a 10 taxpayer suit, complaints to the Attorney General, complaints to the DOR. This is inexcusable that they're not going to tell us how much of our money we're paying for Durfee. And we have videos of them telling us, giving us a number. We have videos of telling us how much we're supposed to be paying. And now it's a secret. Just like everything else in Fall River. It's a big secret. We're not going to tell you anymore. We're going to tell you how much it is when we get you to vote for it. But then after you vote for it, you're not going to know how much you're going to pay for it because only we can know. Because it's not that hard. It's not that hard. They managed to figure out what our bill is. They managed to figure out how much money that they have to shift into your tax bill to cover the TIFs and they give out and the ties they give out. But they can't figure out how much of our money we're going to pay for Durfee. And that's wrong. This city is just, I'm telling you, it's just like the country. Joe Biden screwed up this country in 3 years, and Paul Coogan has managed to freaking destroy this city in 2 terms, and he's starting his 3rd. And this will be the last nail in the coffin. When he gets done and Diamond comes in, he's gonna go out of here with a vapor trail coming out of his butt. And he's going to move back to Somerset and laugh because he's not going to pay any of the taxes, any of the fees, or anything else that they impose on us. And it's going to take us a decade to dig out of this hole. And with that, CJ, back to you. You're muted.
Sorry about that. While you were talking, I was researching the Department of Revenue and the Department of Local Services, which is the governing body for responsible finance in municipalities. The problem is that it's only for governmental officials. You can't even complain to them. And I was thinking, do we have to file a lawsuit? I'm glad, you brought it up, Chip, because I think we need to file a lawsuit. I think we need to get together with 10 taxpayers, file a lawsuit against the city for not providing a report on our bills of how much the debt exclusion is. I don't want to hear the debt exclusion's in the budget. No, I want to see it on my tax bill. I want to know exactly how much it is. They can talk about putting special municipal fees on the tax bill. But you'll notice they don't talk about putting the debt exclusion on the tax bill because that is play money. The money is supposed to be used to pay off the Durfee debt. It's not to fill the holes in the budget. And the mayor has said he's used ARPA funds to offset some of the costs in the debt exclusion. I'm not saying he didn't do that, but I can't prove it because it's nowhere to be found. It's nowhere for the taxpayer to find it. And I'm not going to sit in government center going through papers and finance documents and everything else to find it. I shouldn't have to do that. I should be able to pick up my tax bill and say, oh, debt exclusion payment, X number of dollars. But they can talk about bags. They can talk about trash collection fees. They can talk about the cost of health insurance. They keep saying it's costing them too much, yet they have money. Yet they save money, millions of dollars. And where is it? Nobody knows. You ask, oh, I don't know. They're supposed to have 3 times the amount that the employee trust has in their account. You're lucky if they got $500,000 in that account. They fund it as needed so that they can free the money up to pay other bills. You know, a candidate for office who once was a mayor in this city, Sam Sutter, said very clearly, when I was the mayor, I learned about the budget. And it just keeps moving around. Everything just keeps moving around. It just keeps moving everywhere. That's not how a budget's supposed to be. Look at Newton's budget. They say how they spent the money last year, how much was left over, if they didn't complete a project, why they didn't complete it, how much money they want this year, and what they plan to do with it. And then when they got all of that down and it gets approved, they can't come back and say, I need money. Because guess what? You should have projected it in your budget. You're out of luck. Unless it's an emergency, you're out of luck. But you know what happens at Fall River? Every one of these budgets get approved, and then right after they're approved, they come back in July, they come into the city council chamber and say, I need some more money. I need this, I need that, I need a transfer, I need that. And it happens all the time. All the time. The only department that gets screwed every year is the park department. And that was a meeting last night between the city council and the park board. And Nancy made it very clear, because Nancy's been doing this job for 44, 45 years. So she knows where the bodies are buried. She knows where the bodies are buried. And what they did to her was unacceptable. They took her out of Middle Street at Kennedy Park and moved her down to the city garage, leaving the building at Kennedy Park vacant. Why? That's where the park department offices were. There were bathrooms in there. There was an office in there. People had functionality. The building had functionality. And it's an old building. It's historic. Is this going to be another building that was just going to be left to rot? Like the police station? People need to understand that's not how it's supposed to work. I found out yesterday that Nancy's moving back to Middle Street. And there's a rumor as to why. And remember, this is just a rumor. But supposedly, a superior was harassing Nancy. And so they moved her. I don't know how accurate that is. That's why I'm not naming any supervisors, but that's what the thing is. And isn't it funny that once again, Paul's administration has harassment from department heads against employees? It's just like Paul. When he doesn't get his way, he throws a fit. He gets even. We need to stop this. Everyone says Fall River is a lovely city. Fall River is one of the best cities. Fall River is this. Fall River is that. That's what they think everyone says. That's not what people are saying. And no, it's not 100 people that are saying it's not a good city. It's a majority of people in the city. It's more like 100 people in the city who are saying it's a good city, touting the mantra of Paul Coogan. When you ask throughout this state anything about Fall River, people look at you, and the first thing that pops into their mind is the Gilhooly's of Fall River, the ESPN show. They punch first and ask questions later.
Well,
That's what happened.
let me just look. We've debated this ad nauseum. Look, people who live in this city like the people of the city, but they know this city. If you don't recognize that this city's got serious problems in everything that's important, education, crime, you're either too rich and you live in an area that's has special protections like they do in every city, like Atlanta and places like that, where the rich get treated differently. But this city, severely underperforming in education, crime, homelessness, low wages. This city's got a lot of work to do, and they're not doing anything about it. They're just making the rich richer, and the problem's worse. And if you're either one of the people who don't care because you're one of the rich, or you're drinking a Kool-Aid and you got a job from somebody, or you're looking for a job. So look, that debate has long passed. But you mentioned something about the special fees, and I just had something today. I was talking about before the show. Trash came by, I put out my recycles and my regular trash, and I wanted to see, because they used to always pick up my regular trash first and the recycles later, but then lately it's been like a crapshoot. So I heard the barrel go by, so I took a look out the window to see which barrel they picked up, and they picked up my regular trash. But I saw my recycled bin open with a whole bunch of boxes stuffed in there that I didn't put in. So when I went out to bring my regular trash barrel up, I pulled out the boxes. There were Bud Light cans in there, and I don't drink beer. Bud Light or any other kind of beer. I don't drink beer. And there was a partial address on it, and it wasn't my address, and it weren't my boxes. Amazon Prime boxes, beer cans in my trash, and he didn't even have the common decency, he or she, to close the lid. Now here's a classic example. If they stick something in there that wasn't recyclable, and I get a fine, I don't even have the right to appeal it. I'd have to take pictures of that address and take them to court. And this is what's going to happen when you do this crap. People are going to be stuffing people's barrels with everything. And we don't even have the right to appeal. And the city's going to whine, well, then we always get overturned in court. Well, you always do with everything. You lost dominion. Every time you go to court on a lawsuit, you settle. You never won a lawsuit. You people just suck at this. So here's a classic example today, this morning. Talk about karma. It happened to me today. I got somebody stuffing stuff in my barrel, because their barrel was probably full. And this is the problem. They don't care about us. They don't care about due process. They don't care about the law. Well, they don't care about the charter, except when it benefits them. Oh, the charter says this, the charter says that. I appointed the charter review commission. Why? Nobody cares what the charter says. The government doesn't care what the charter says. Let's table it. Cliff Ponte did have a point. The motion should have been out of order because it violated the charter. But the city council didn't have enough knowledge of their own constitution, our constitution in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and of the charter to say, Mr. Chairman, point of order, that motion to table is out of order. This is a mandate from our charter. You cannot make a motion to waive a mandate, a law, fundamentally, and then hold them to account. Just like when they say, we want you to put it in, and they say, we can't, they could say, yes, you can, and you will. We just approved the salary, we approved the salary for a consultant and a financial analyst. So the financial analyst is so good they can't figure out how much the people of this city are paying on the override? Well, they should all be fired. And we're not going to approve the budget until the damn numbers are in the budget. So all the people can know. And it's on their tax bill. But they won't do that. They won't do that. Like I said, they'll make the excuse, well, we brought it up. Well, don't give them the money. You're the steward of the money. You're the fiduciary. Tell them, I want to know. I live in Fall River. I pay taxes. I want to know how much I'm paying for Durkee. I want my tax bill. I want to know what I'm paying for my house, and I want to know what I'm paying for that debt exclusion. Otherwise, you don't get the money. We'll go to a 112 budget. But not those bobbleheads. So
here's the kicker on that. I want you to remember this. When Michelle Dion rejected the budget, Alan Rumsey said the rejection of the budget is not an action on the budget. I believe he said you have to go through each and every line item and you have to reduce it. They can't give more money, but they can reduce it. So my opinion is, as each one of those departments come up, including public safety, I'm sorry to say this, but you're not going to get them to listen until you cut them off at the knees. Okay? You turn around and say, I'm reducing the departmental budget to $1. $1. That's an action.
Well, you're right, CJ, but I'm going to tell you something. Alan Rumsey, that's his opinion, and I think that opinion is bullshit.
So do I.
Because if to reject the budget is not an action, to accept the budget without accepting each individual line item is not an action either, is it? Think about that. That's logic.
That's right.
And he doesn't have logic. He gave him his bullshit legal opinion. That's not an action. Well, to unilaterally accept the entire budget, then that's not an action either. If you say it requires you to take each individual line item, well, you should have to take each individual line item and accept it to accept the budget. And this year they didn't even look at the finances in the budget. Does that make it not an action? They're full of shit. They're full of shit. I don't care what color eyes they got. If they got blue eyes, they must be wearing colored contacts because they're all full of shit right up to their eyebrows. Okay?
Sure.
And this is the kind of bullshit they say in front of a camera. They'd never get away with this in Newton, because in Newton, you got to tell them what you're going to do, what you did last year, why you didn't do what you said you were going to do, and if you come down for more money after that and you didn't put it in your budget, unless it's a catastrophic emergency, you don't get a dime. Because that's why Newton has got money and we don't. Because these people just make up shit as they go along. None of this stuff makes sense, but nobody's got the money to take them to court. Because, you know, you're going to not bankrupt yourself to make these people toe the line. The only way we can do it is vote them out of office and hold their feet accountable. And remember, I don't care who we got for a mayor. It only takes a few thousand votes to affect a city council race. We got to put a council in there that's going to actually be fiduciaries for us and our money. That whole thing of the budget is bullshit. Okay, Rumsey that's bullshit. Oh, you got to do it, and like you said, if they wanted to do that, I'll tell you what, they're lucky I wasn't on a council. That's why I wouldn't go there, because I'd probably have to beat myself to death with a hammer sitting in a room with these people. But for that long a time, that would be worse than a Chinese water torture. But I'll tell you what, I would say okay. And I've seen that in conventions where they have to take a roll call vote of every one of the thousands of delegates at an international convention. And that took basically the entire day, where every single president of every single union in the United States and Canada had to go up to a microphone and cast his vote individually. I would have said, okay, keep the lights on, order pizza. We're going to go by every single line, and as you said, we're going to reduce everything to $1. And that will be a legal action, right, Mr. Rumsey? That's why Mr. Rumsey is the corporation counsel, not practicing law in Boston. With that, CJ, I'll turn it back to you.
Well, from what I remember, and I heard from other people in the DA's office, he wasn't that great of a DA either. So it's interesting that, you know, again, your past will follow you one way or the other, and sometimes it bites you on the ass. I know I've had it happen to me, and it's bit me on the ass more than once. So, well, it's that time again, people. I want to thank you all for watching, and remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable, because if you don't, nobody else will. Have a great weekend.